Hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here. Raptors are officially conveying the pick. It is Basketball Rewind. Welcome. Subscribe on your way in or on your way out. Hopefully, you enjoy the content that you are about to view. So, as I said, the pick is in. I think I should first start off by saying who won the lottery, because that's kind of important. Atlanta won. They jumped 9 spots.
See you, TJ.
We see
Yes.
you, TJ.
Yes. The Spurs jumped 1 spot. Um, now the most unlucky team in this draft, in my opinion, although they were going to lose their pick either way, was the Brooklyn Nets. They jumped all the way up 6 spots. They were just a couple spots behind the Raptors, actually. So as the cards were getting pulled out, I'm just wondering what was going through your mind, because the Raptors did convey their pick. They got the 8th overall pick, and they are conveying that to San Antonio. So San Antonio will have the 4th and 8th pick in today's draft, or in this upcoming draft, I should say. So yeah, thoughts. Beyond, I'll start with you.
Um. Oh, sorry. I just saw something.
I know you're watching the game.
No, sorry. Jamal Murray just hit a buzzer beater from about 75 feet at the half court. I'm like, unbelievable. Anyways, that was a bad 20 seconds. Anyways, I think I like conveying the pick was the best scenario. Like, I'm just glad it's over with. You don't get me wrong. I was starting to think of dreaming of certain lineups. I was trying not trying to get ahead of myself. I know we had these discussions. I was always trying to pull back a little bit because this scenario was quite possible. But you did think a little bit about what Sar would look like with the starting a lineup like this. But it's good that it's over with. We now have control over our draft picks moving forward, and the key thing is we have our control over draft pick for this next draft next year. And even the year after, it's supposed to be 2 really top line drafts. So that was what was scaring me. I'm glad it's over with. As far as the Atlanta stuff goes, as I said before, they make things a lot interesting across the league now, because whenever you have a team in this case that wasn't expected to be the number 1 pick overall, it does now make things very fascinating how they will move and could have impacts there. And as you said before, the Brooklyn situation, man, that Durant deal, man, it's the deal that keeps on giving, man. Holy smokes. I thought the Pearl deal was something else, man, but like that sucker, man. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, we've just had a minor taste of what they're going through. And we've just started to understand what it's like to not control your future. And next year, they still can't tank. They don't control their future. Like, I keep hearing other teams like Atlanta, like, oh, well, now we can go for McHale. I'm like, McHale's not available. He's not available for a year. I'm sorry, but he's just
They
not.
have to be free agent players, man.
Yeah, so it's I'll say that right off the jump. Really unlucky. Coach, your thoughts on the draft when the pick happened? Like, what was going through your mind when I guess 8 was selected? Is it the Spurs?
I knew when Atlanta jumped into the top 4 that we were done,
Mm.
because all it took was one team between 7 and 14 to jump into the top 4.
It was
Only
2,
one.
right?
And then there was 2. It was
Yes,
Atlanta, and the
there
other
was
one
2.
was Houston.
Yeah, because
So, I mean,
the Jazz, all of a sudden you saw the Jazz being selected at 10. You're like, what? Wait a minute.
yeah. So, yeah, no, I'm okay with this. I think in the long term, this is what you want. Trust me, you don't want to be here May 12th, 2025, wondering, are we going to lose our pick in potentially one of the top 4 or 5 drafts in the last 25 years? Potentially. You
And
don't want that.
the next year is
So,
not much better.
Yeah. Yeah, the next 2 years are going to be, they're
Considering-
supposed to be really, really good drafts.
exactly.
We will see what happens. Sometimes people will reclassify and who goes where. But and stay tuned on Basketball Rewind, of course. So we will be talking about them probably early, to be honest, because from a Raptors perspective, that's the draft that you are now eyeing. I think what is interesting to me is how Raptors fans seem to still have a little bit of cognitive dissonance in terms of what the plan is moving forward. So I'm just going to ask you guys, what do you think that the plan is moving forward now that we don't have the draft pick?
Well, hold on. There's two different questions in there. Is what the plan should be and what the plan we think is. is the plan,
Sure. Yep.
right? Like, because those two may not be the same thing.
I think that they're more aligned than they might have been in the past. But coach, I'll let you finish, and then we'll go to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the long term, like I said, this is the ideal outcome. Like there was part of me I would have loved to have had Alex Sarr, but that would have required getting the number one pick. And after Sarr, the next six, seven, eight, nine guys, you can make an argument that any of them can go number two. So that's their own tier that those guys are in. And Sarr, in my opinion, and I think it might be the opinion of all of us as well. He's in his own tier, and that's about it. And that was a long shot to try to get the number one pick. So oddly enough, this is what they wanted to do last trade deadline. This is what they were hoping for. And now they got their wish. And we kind of get our wish too. So we have to worry about dealing with San Antonio. I hope not for the next few years as we help build their dynasty.
Hey, we have one more deal to get done, which is the second rounder for next year, and then we're completely free. Almost there,
It keeps
people.
on giving.
Almost free, people. It might be a good second rounder actually next year, but yeah. I did see some framing of this where people were just focusing purely on the financials of, well, now you don't have to pay someone, basically $7 to $10 million. I think you have to look at it beyond just the financial cap hit. We're not at a place where we can kind of get cute about trying to be cheap about a team that isn't good. The time to be cheap and stuff like that, or to really worry about the money, is when you're competing and you're still trying to maintain that competition level. To me, most people who are relatively grounded in reality seem to be focused on us becoming a team that could maybe at best win, win enough to get into the 9-10 seed. No one's really talked about making it. There just seems to be this assumption that you'd make it past the 9-10 seed against a Miami or a or whoever else happens to be there. Maybe it could be the Bucks next year. You never know. But it seems like that seems like a lot, because I don't think in any of those games right now as it stands, unless we have a historic, meteoric rise from a few players, that we stand to have the best player in any of those series, even if it's a one-game series. Your thoughts? Beyond.
I think we're going to be one of the worst teams in the league next year, and I don't see how. I mean, I guess I look at the reverse. I look at the other way. How many teams that were behind us last year are going to get better? That's the way I look at it. So, I think Charlotte, just for health purposes, will be a better team, and quite honestly, will be the same as us, if not better.
You could definitely argue that Atlanta got better.
Of course Atlanta got better. Yes. Today Atlanta's now better than us for sure. Easy.
Like if they do nothing else, it's like
they are better. They are
and
better.
they got and if as long as they don't get crazy about it, like they got the right fit. Like just take
who
Star
got better
and
than
run.
Today too? A black and silver team that we seem to always want to beat trades with. They got two teams.
San Antonio did get better, yeah.
They got better than us. Right, so
because they can move one of those picks, they can keep the pick, they can do a whole lot of stuff.
So like these teams, and that that's just overall from drafting position. I never even talked about the East in this case here, right? Like like that's overall in the league. Where do you find a way to get in any sort of like ability to be in any sort of play-in situation? Like, are you serious? Like,
yeah, and Utah is not trading Lauri Markkanen, so like they're not looking to take a step back. Memphis will get significantly better next year. Like even just like looking at the standings from this year and like who's slated to get better. Houston will get better because they have the Nets pick.
Exactly. So like I'm looking around going like, okay, so who's this team in the East that's going to be falling off completely out the woods? Not likely. Chicago's going to do what the Chicago does every year. They already got to do the play-in for next year.
And they also don't have full control of their picks, so they are not going to be trying to tank.
No, and Chicago's not going to tank because in this case here, the man owns that team. He want to make money. He's like, yo, I need to get me some playoff games, some by hook or crook. So they're going to be in their usual spot, 39 and 42, wherever it is, or 41 and 41, or 40 and 42. That's them all the time. So all these teams are going to be better than us. I don't know what people are drinking, I don't know what to drink in, but folks, buckle up and start
Yeah,
looking at
and
flag material or Ace Bailey stuff or Dylan Harper. Enjoy the ride.
Coach, you were saying.
well, your team beyond, even though I think they took the biggest hit today, falling from 1 to 5, they're going to be a decent team next year. Like I think we talked about them being the Houston of the West. Like they get a
Man,
couple of veteran players. They have,
Tobias Harris has already got his plane ticket to Detroit. Okay.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. But I mean, are we going to be? Are we going to be worse than Detroit? I don't think so. I think Detroit's got enough talent, and they're just going to get a bit better. Add a couple of free agents. The Spurs are going to be better. The only team I can confidently say that we might be better than
Mhm.
is Washington
Yeah,
with
that's the
Risa Shea or Sar.
yeah.
I don't know that matters,
No.
but that's the only team that I can say, yeah, I think we're going to be better than them. The rest, I cannot confidently say that we're going to be better than Portland or Charlotte or Detroit or Memphis. Definitely not Memphis, but like the Jazz or the Bulls, stuff like that. I can't say that.
Because it's not even just your when you're trying to compete with the lottery, you're not just competing against your own conference, you're actually competing against the other conference as well in terms of who could be the worst. Portland is another one where, okay, I say Portland's around the same, but like Portland still is gonna just get better because they have a lot of young guys who are slated to improve. Sharp is not going to be having abdominal surgery, hopefully for his sake, next year. There's other guys on that team, and also like they held on to Jeremy Grant. It sounds like they really like Jeremy Grant, and I think that they also don't want to get like so young that it's Lord of the Flies. So there's a lot of interesting moves that have happened. I think we already kind of touched on who's the biggest loser of the night, which is Detroit, just because again, through how many years in a row where it's like you're right there. I'm sorry, Beyond, I'm not doing this on purpose. You're like, no, it's okay.
Yeah, that's okay, man. But we'd be all right. Like, I mean, I look at it right now. If I had my choice right now, to be honest with you, if I'd probably be Detroit or Toronto, I'd rather be Detroit right now.
Yep.
I don't know if I would say that, but I think that there's an argument to be said for it. So there's definitely arguable. I'd rather be Toronto because I think that if we do it the right way and if we move the right way, we actually might end up coming on the flip side of this in a better position for sure. But we just have to be patient, Raptors fans. So your guys' thoughts. I'll start with you, Coach, on Atlanta getting the first overall pick.
Well, congratulations to Atlanta moving up 9 spots. That is quite something. I've never heard quite that jump in the draft before. I've heard of a 6 or 7 leap. I think Chicago the year they got Derrick Rose, and New Orleans when they drafted Zion.
Yeah, Cleveland was 1-2.
Cleveland, yeah. So, Atlanta's never had the number 1 pick before. I think they said that on the broadcast today. So now they finally got one. It's in a weak draft, but number 1 pick is still a number 1 pick, regardless. So I think Atlanta, this will definitely help them moving forward, adding someone like, I'm assuming it's going to be Sarr, but you never know. They were talking about Don McLean today, possibly being the number 1 pick, which I'm not so sold on. I would rather go with Sarr.
I
And
don't know
I
if I
think,
do that.
yeah, but I think Atlanta's just they position themselves to be a little bit better next year. But to think that they're going to be contenders next year, no, sorry, it is not.
No. And then just to, finish up the Raptors perspective, I think for me, the interesting thing is going to be like, I think we're going to be a better team, interestingly enough. I think that you have 2 interesting rookies that could potentially come in. I think we're going to see growth of the team. That doesn't mean we're better enough, right? There, you're going to see growth, internal growth, the favorite term that everyone likes to see before evaluate, E for evaluate. But at the same time, is it better enough? No, I don't think we're slated to be a free agency player. Now, when I say better, I mean like you're better primarily because, again, instead of relying on Kelly Olynyk as your full-time center, you don't have to worry about Kelly Olynyk as your full-time center. Knock on wood, right? But yeah, Beyond, you were gonna say something.
I'm just questioning. I guess I'm pushing back a little bit. This unit that we've seen right now, they haven't proven they could win games.
They have not. But yeah,
I want to make this clear to people. That 27 wins we saw this past season, A lot of that was on the backs of OG and Siakam. That 27 wins. We have not seen post-trade deadline what the percentage of winning is with this team. And that's where I'm saying, like, I would respectfully disagree. I think this team's going to be a hot mess. Now, I'm going to enjoy the mess, but it's going to be a hot mess.
Yeah, so I can feel the subscriber count just dropping, right? But hey, it is what it is. I'm not here to tell lies, people. I'm just here to,
We're here to
make
tell
my
the truth.
here to tell the truth. Jeez.
Let me tell you something. What I'm giving you right now, folks, is like Buckley's. It's going to taste bad initially, but it's going to make you feel a lot better in the long run. Trust me. Because when we're
100%.
next year and we have a top 3 or 4 pick, and you see those players that coming out, you won't remember any of this right there. You will remember how bad the Buckleys taste at this point. Don't worry about it, folks. Relax. It'll be okay.
No.
This is next year is the year to stink. If you're going to stink, do it next year, get it over with. And then after 2025, that's when you start putting these pieces together. That's when things start to form a little bit. Maybe you're more of a player in free agency. Who knows? I doubt it, but who knows? Maybe you are your developmental timeline, I think, if you hit right in 2025, could go up significantly in the next couple of years after that. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be with the Spurs controlling your pick next year. That would be horrible.
Can you
for this franchise?
Like, I'm just so tired. I don't think people realize it's like I'm just so darn tired of the convey or keep. Imagine doing that for an entire year. An entire year.
2 years.
Yeah,
2
that's
years,
true.
yeah.
2 years, but like essentially, because like at one point last year we weren't really like serious about it, but next year it'd be basically from the jump. It's like convey or keep the pick, because then you don't have even stuff to like trade away. The other thing that I would also caution people, just in my opinion, I'm open to pushback, but I don't see how we're going to, essentially make trades to get much significantly better. There's ways to make us marginally better, but I don't know how we can make trades to make us significantly better for next year, which is a good thing.
Are we segueing to our friend?
Wait, which one?
Well, I mean, we talked offline about what you do with Mr. Bruce.
Oh yes, so Bruce. Actually, I'll make the announcement on the pod now. Blake Murphy will be coming on the pod, and we'll be discussing some of these things in more depth. So I think that's a good little preamble for the future, and I'll start putting those things out, feelers out, and seeing how people are. But yeah, the Bruce Brown question is the lingering question, as well as the Chris Boucher question. I don't expect Chris Boucher to be on the team next year. There's no, shade against him or anything like that. It's just they've been trying to move this dude for 2 years. They didn't even play him this past year at the end of the year. So, and he's better. He's a guy that deserves to be on an NBA roster and should be playing. So, the real question is like, is there a combination or what that could, maybe net you something in the future for 2025, because I think we've all established, as well as the front office has established, that they don't necessarily want more picks for this year's draft. But before we get into that, you actually brought up the notion of what the front office might do. So do you want to talk about the Bruce Brown a little bit? We could save that for another time. Or do you want to talk about what you think that the front office might do, and what we think that what will actually do, like what should they do and what will actually happen?
Well, what they should do in this case, I think you need to continue to strip it down to the studs. And what I'm concerned about is that between a lot of discourse out here about free agency talk, I put that in the same bucket as how they manage if they trade either one of these guys. What I don't want in this case is to get another quote young player, or a player kind of like in their prime, a guy that's expecting minutes. Because in this case, you're going to have, you're still going to have 2 guys likely coming in this year. And then you're sitting there with all the guys you already have. At some point, guys are going to be wanting minutes. You're going to start getting unhappy players. It's going to cause even more friction. I'd rather have that trade in this case for a veteran that you could play in spot minutes, and you're really trading for the pick, like pick movement. That's what I would hope is ideally what they do. I think Masai and the company should be done with trying to acquire as much young players as possible. They're good now. The draft will take care of the rest.
Yeah, and I think in a sense they did hint at that before coach goes, just because they number one, they outlined this as one of the reasons why they traded away one of the picks just in case they get three picks. So they were like, we don't want to use all three picks at that time when they only had three picks that were known. And so that to me hinted that they want as few picks in this draft as possible. And then someone that you kind of have a little bit of data on. Now, I know not everyone's happy about the Ochai move. I thought it was fine. I still think it's a fine move. When all is said and done, I think Kelly brought a little bit of maturity to that lineup, but he also shouldn't be manning that lineup on his own. That's really what it comes down to. And I think Ochai is, what is he going into the third year, I believe. So, or is it his? I think it's his third year. I want to say
Third year because he was the year after year before Grady, because Grady.
right, right. So he's going into his third year. So you kind of have 2 years to kind of see what you have in him, and that provides kind of enough of a it provides enough of a runway to see what you have in him developmentally. Coach, your thoughts? Okay, so focus on drafting and development moving forward. Okay.
Yep. Can you
And
guys hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. And then,
Okay.
I guess the other thing is, do you think that they will do that?
I think they will. I think Masai had already said we need probably 3 to 6 years. 6 years is definitely a very long time. I don't want to be in 2030 and we're still like, okay, now we're ready to go. And you might have to be ready to go in a couple of years before that. That's just me. 3 to 4 years is when you're probably looking to be ready to go. But think about how you got your last championship when you were good. What did you do? You drafted well and you developed players. You didn't go out and try to sign your free agency record during that time when you were competing was terrible. And it's been just as bad lately when you haven't been competing. So why focus on free agency? I would just focus on drafting and developing. If you have to sign a guy, it's a 1 2 year deal max for me, very max. I keep the term very low. Have that cap flexibility. The CBA is going to change. And you also need to find out, is Scotty a number one guy? I know this year was a big year for him, what he just did. And you know what? He had a good year. For the most part, he you saw development. Yeah, I think basically he was 20 and 20 points, 8 rebounds or 9 rebounds and 6 assists and a block and a half and steal. Good numbers. You need to find out more though this coming year. And I've said this many times. If he's 22, 8 and 8 next year, that's an all-star and that's good. Is that the number one guy moving forward? Probably not. If you want to contend, every team, every championship team's going to guy get you over 26, 27 a game at least. But
Yeah.
you need to find out more. Once again, is Scotty going to take another big jump? And if so, fantastic. And if it's a bit of a minor jump, that's just more data on okay, this is what we're starting to realize about this guy. Same thing with RJ and Quickly as well. Quickly, this is his first time being a starter. The numbers were pretty good when he as a starter, actually. I think it was like 18, 7 assists, and like 4 or 5 rebounds, and 40% 3 point shooting. That's good. And you
Yep.
find out from RJ, same thing, and Grady Dick. Once again, this is about drafting and developing moving forward for me. The next 2 years, that's what this is about.
Yeah. I think for me, it's. I don't think that they have any other thing to sell the fans. If you're Masai and you're trying to also talk to Pelly, how are you going to sell that you're going to try to be good? I get it. He's under pressure, but you can't reasonably sell that. There's only one way to try to do that, and you don't have the assets to do that. So there's no sales pitch there, right? Now, I'm not saying how he's going to sell us being bad. I don't think he's going to say, well, we're going to be bad. But I think it's, again, you're looking for more of the same kind of, again, I think some people really don't watch the pressers, and I encourage everyone to watch the pressers because they're publicly available. There's a lot of talk about, 3 to 6 years, right? When you start using those terms, when you start saying, hey, we were talking the other day, and I went back and I listened to Bobby's words, and it's like, he outlined, it's like, well, we need to win the next 10 moves and get singles. We're not going to get out of this with, 2 or 3 big swings. In other words, there isn't really like, You can't just like make a trade and blammo, you're out of this. Like they're really are telling you kind of like we're up Blanks Creek without a paddle, and we need to wait till we need to wait till like the stuff goes back. So to make their way out of it, and so they've just stopped digging the hole. And now it's time to start kind of working your way out of it, and so that's
Well,
what I see. Yeah.
I see with both of your all comments, be it the singles comment
Hmm.
or what coach mentioned in this case, 3 to 6 years.
Hmm.
I know. I mean, I'm sorry, it might be hurting the subscriber base a little bit more, but what it sounds like they're telling me in this case here, they don't think that number 4 is the dude. That's what it's telling me. Because if you think you have a dude, that timeline is 6 years. That's not the timeline you're talking about. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
not
what's concerning.
right. You're just not. And
That's true. They would be more
no,
gung ho about we just need to move.
right. When you think you have a guy, we're sitting here watching. We're sitting here watching two teams, like especially the team in white that's at home. They didn't wait around and say, "Well, we'll wait 4 or 5 years to see how Anthony is," and then we'll no. They went and made a trade for Gobert like the next year. Once they say, "Okay, this is a dude after year 2, here we go. We're on the move." Conley, we're on the move. NAW, you got part of the deal. We're moving now. This idea, and listen, the other thing people got to realize, man, and we're in a new world now, man. We don't have 5 years in everything, in all sorts of business. Folks don't have 5 and 7 year plans no more. Folks got 3 year plans at most. That's the world we live in any business, including sports.
Yeah, it's called the lean business model.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
So forget a little business lesson today. So folks talk about 6 years. They know 6 year deals. Then give me a break. 6 year deals for what? So to me, they are trying to obfuscate what is in front of us that no one wants to say, except for your boy right here. Nobody wants to say it. Folks don't want to say it on X, formerly known as Twitter. Folks don't want to say it on YouTube. Folks don't even want to say it on this podcast. The fact is, in this case here, we don't have a dude. That is what they're trying to tell you. Okay? And I'm just going to put it there. You can find me at Beyond Locker RM if you want to talk about it. I'm there all the time. Shoot your shot. Okay? Point is, they don't have a dude. And that's what they're trying to tell you. So let's just get it over with and pull off the Band-Aid. That's all I got to say about it, man. And we can talk all around it and say all sorts of things, but that's what they're saying, man.
Yeah, so I think what the best case scenario is that essentially, you're hoping that you get someone in next year's draft that can effectively be as good as Barnes. Because if the current core, as they call it, if all of them improve, could any of them, regardless of what you think of Barnes, could any of them be as good as Barnes? And I would suggest probably not.
Well, no, but here's the other thing too. If we just go back to Barnes,
I'm talking about next year. Sorry.
yeah, next year. But even to your point, that's one thing.
Don't worry. I'm going to get to Barnes.
Right. But no, the answer is no. I mean,
Yeah.
And the part that all of them have the issue with is when they're putting up these numbers in this case, and I have a term in this case, you might have heard me say it on this particular podcast.
Revlon.
Numbers. All right. In other words, they're cosmetic. They look good in the stat sheet. They look good when you look at your app. But if you sat down and watched for 2.5 hours, you know, like this ain't winning basketball. Because in this case here, there was a little stat that was going on last year in all the iterations. Every time Scotty had a big game, did we win the game? No. I think at one point we're 0 for 6 or 0 for 7 when we went for 30 plus points.
So I'm going to give you pushback mainly because we have to have a nuanced discussion. So it's important to have that. My argument in favor of that is maybe, I don't know, maybe he was being held back, or maybe it was the circumstance. Maybe we just didn't see enough of it cooking, so it was a small sample size of those guys. Now I know you're not buying that, but I just listen. I have to give pushback to give nuance. If you're asking me my honest opinion, right now, thus far, he has not shown that he can be the guy. And even if he was the guy, I said it before, I think you build around multiple guys anyway.
Okay, so let's have this conversation. What was he being held back from doing?
I don't know, chucking up more threes.
Okay. Last
I have no idea,
last time
honestly.
the Texas report
Coach,
came up,
can I tag Coach in? Coach,
hey,
you
no,
wanna
no,
add
no.
any?
Hey, we can do a one on
Coach is the one that said that he improved, so
go,
go for it.
go for it,
Well,
man.
he improved, but you still need to find out if he's the guy or if he's not the number one guy. Doesn't mean that he can't be a number two guy on a great team.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with that either. As I've said, 22, 8, and 8 is an all-star in this league. That doesn't mean that he has to be all NBA and stuff like that. But we don't know. We won't know until next year when it is
Yeah.
official. He is the number one guy coming into next year. I kept saying last year that Fred had to go for his development.
Yes.
Now Pascal and OG are gone. There's no more excuses because we heard them all last year. It's Nurse's fault, and it's Fred's fault, and it's
Peyton's already
Siakam's
given a
fault.
2-1 in
It's
this case
OG's.
here, man. Don't worry about
So
it, man.
so so
Peyton
so
started
so
early.
so
Started early
I'm trying to
today.
give a tag in, and the tag in. You fail, Coach.
Oh yeah, I may I may have failed on that, but
Yeah.
I say this in a good way though. Like you have to
Yeah.
find out with Scotty, you really do, because of his improvement of last season, and it was a big improvement. It's worth seeing another year of him being the guy to find out. If he
Oh,
didn't have that improvement, then that's different.
I
I'm
actually
looking forward to it.
yeah. So I think it's kind of in a way it's kind of like the Mobley discussion. Mobley's a good kind of flashpoint for this, where a lot of Cavs fans have said like, "Oh, he hasn't improved." And I was talking to someone about this. I'm actually going to shout him out, JD, because I talked to JD on the regular, and JD's going to be back on this podcast at some point soon. And also Trey is coming this weekend, so we're getting the gang back together. But one of the things that we talked about with
What's OG
Mobley.
doing these days?
Well, you know. Uh,
Beyond.
My bad.
hey man, Precious is taking his spot now. So I think the interesting thing about this discussion, right, to get back on track here is with Barnes, yes, there was an improvement. But when did the improvement happen? How did it happen? And how can you build on that? Because one of the things is that he's going to be taking on a much bigger workload. He actually had for people in his draft class, he had the third biggest workload, but the guys ahead of him were basically relied upon to be, much higher usage. And now he's not a low usage player at this point. He can't be. He can't afford to be. And that's not a knock on him or anything like that. But he's just not a low usage player. He can't be. He's supposed to be the guy. And so, what does that look like when you effectively don't have the guardrails? Because going back to the Mobley thing that I touched on, you can't. If the guy is supposed to be that good, yes, there's a point in, okay, if they didn't trade Mitchell and they would have spoon fed the guy more and all, but if you are the guy and you're supposed to be that good and people are like essentially saying that he's going to have a 10 win share, which is double the amount of wins that he would be responsible for than over double than he was responsible for this year, which would be an astronomical leap. We're talking like I don't even know if Luca has a 10 win share, although I could look it up as I speak. At some point, you can't handhold them. They have to overcome that. So we'll look at a 12 win share. So it'd be like him having a Luca level, like, impact next year. That's what we're talking about in terms of what people think he's going to be. And I'm trying to say, look, for his sake, maybe in year six, but right now, I don't see that, and that's a maybe as well. So, to your point, it's really tough to put that expectation on him. You just have to see what you have. I'm strapped in for the ride, but I wouldn't say that it's automatic that the improvements come. We saw already with Barnes and Mobley and all these guys that growth is not linear. It really is not linear. It's definitely not exponential normally either. So, I think there's a lot of question marks about this team in general. How can they defend together as a group? I don't know. Hopefully, there's just a lot of questions. So yeah, Coach, any thoughts? Now.
I think I have. I think what I said. What I said. And he's earned another, or he's earned that right, I think, because of his improvement this year to
Mhm.
be that number one. He's the engine, and you need to find out more. You need
Well,
to
I
find
mean,
out more in the number one role. He
because
became an
because of how
all-star this
the
year.
because of how the draft lottery shook out, there's no other option.
Well, there's that there's that too. But like
There's no
you have
other
said,
option.
Kenyon, you've said Kenyon multiple times. God, you don't build around a player anymore. You build around a core, and I 100% agree with you. Even the Spurs, even though they have Wembanyama, the face of the league, you still
Yeah.
have to have a core around him
Why do you
in
think
order
they're
to
trying to
build.
get other players potentially? It's because
They,
like Wemby
yeah,
alone, is he supposed to also do the marketing plan, make the popcorn, serve the popcorn, and to also take the tips? No, thank you, sir. Like
yeah.
that's
But
like
beyond's point too, if I understand him, you still have to add significant amount of talent. Because if you don't think he's the guy, you better start adding some talent.
Thank you, coach, because that's my point. It's not in saying
Yeah,
that Scotty has no place on the team, or to your point, I agree with you. Scotty might be a good second or even a third option if that
no
happens.
place on the team. Only a few people on in Raptors fandom say that kind of nonsense.
Right. So or like
Tip my cap to you.
or a third option. But my point is that the way they are moving and operating, they are telling you without telling you. And what I'm seeing here, I'm just a dude who's been watching NBA basketball for over 40 years. I'm sitting there going like, everyone always comes with this. Well, Giannis at this date, Giannis is the aberration when you have a guy. Most
They also
guys,
try to use Jokic as an example.
right? Those are the aberrations. The normal course that happens when you have a guy, pretty soon. That's my point I'm trying to tell folks. To your point, Jokic, Giannis, those are aberrations. Embiid, we have to wait around to figure out he was the dude. The moment he
I guess he's not the dude.
No, but
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
here's how I evaluate folks. Here's my secret sauce of what I think is a number one.
By the way, I was talking about Embiid, but yeah, but to your point, like Embiid, you kind of knew right away that he
right. A
was
number
a dude.
two option can get you to about 500. A number two option leading your team. A number one option should get you over 50 plus wins to be a 1 or 2 seed.
And they still need help.
Right. And they'll still need help, of course. But that's the difference in levels. So let's first see if Scotty can get you to a 500 level team. Because, with the group he's got, and where else they put around him. Because I don't know yet, but I just think, like, I feel like we're dancing around subject matter no one wants to really talk about when it's like pretty much they're giving you all the breadcrumbs and telling you really what they think without saying what they're thinking.
No, but beyond, they're not even giving you breadcrumbs. They straight up said like they were asked point blank, "Is he the dude?" Okay, in a damn press conference, and Masai said, "No, he's not the dude right now, but we're gonna try our best to make him the dude." That's it. They told you. They told you he's not a dude. Okay, don't shoot the messenger. They said he is not the man. Maybe he is in the future. I don't know, but right now he ain't it.
Yeah,
If he was, we would have finished the season better because after the deadline, and I'm not pointing to this is not a Siakam or OG conversation. I'm saying after the deadline, I said, can we win 10 games? We did not win 10 games. We didn't.
Well, that's the thing with.
Did we win 7? I can't even remember.
I think we got about 7 or 8, but that's the core, right? That's the part. I go back to how we started this discussion. Let's see what this core looks like, because that was not the core that won the majority of these games last year. That's the part that why I hear people say, "Oh, we're going to be a playing team." It's like, what evidence of that we have? Not with this bunch. They don't guard. Shout out to my man Mouth of the North. They don't guard.
Actually, since All-Star break, they won 6.
Oh, I gave them 2 extra they shouldn't even deserve, right? They don't guard. That's a problem. Last time we checked, you got guard.
That's
actually,
important.
Yeah, I actually do give him out. He was saying that the whole year. And I really do have to give him a big credit for that because,
all year. It didn't matter what iteration of the team.
The very first Darko presser, he said, "Don't worry, we will play really good defense," in response to Samson's question. We did not. We played good defense for 5 games, maybe.
The last time you spoke about defense, Kenyon.
It is actually. I listened to his pressers, to the point where I had to take a break from the pressers, but I listened to the vast majority of the pressers. I do not psychoanalyze the pressers. I don't say this is how he holds his hell for this and that, and this is what I ain't doing that. But I listen to what the man says. I listen to what comes out of his mouth. and I do listen, and I don't forget. I have a very good memory. Didn't really talk a lot about defense throughout the year. At the end of the year, nah. Talk about offense. It's like a pizza party, man. Eyes are lighting up. Coach.
But that last part that you said about how Masai said we don't think he's the guy right now, but we're going to find out. Darko said the same thing.
He did.
We're still trying to figure out
What he's good
he
at.
is. But
That's what he had.
because of the internal improvement, you're willing to try and find out.
Yes. Yep.
And I think it's worth it now because we don't know what this team will look like next year from a win-loss record. We have ideas. They might be the bottom 3 worst teams in the league, which isn't a bad thing. When you're not a free agent destination, you have to build through the draft and make good trades.
Yep. We have to rebuild our pipeline. A good example. I was telling you guys this. I know
Exactly.
it's not everything, but OKC won the G League championship. They have guys coming in that pipeline.
Yeah.
Right? We have a coach that at best people have admitted, even his most valiant defenders have said he's developing as a coach. Give him a chance. Well, if he's developing as a coach, how is he going to suddenly be, coach of the year next year? If we're looking at Mark from OKC, took him a couple years too.
Yep.
So, just saying, be patient, and we'll get there. Other than that, and we'll have more of these type of discussions. We have some more fun news, which is Toronto is getting a new team. Toronto is getting a WNBA franchise, right on the backs of, or I guess I should say on the eve of like officially knowing what is the media rights deal. Now we've talked about the media rights deal a couple times on this podcast recently. Coach, you missed the last discussion. That's okay. So we're going to kind of skip through the media rights stuff, but your guys' thoughts on Toronto getting a WNBA franchise? Because first of all, I think I might go to a couple games because I might actually be able to afford a couple games.
That's the best part. Having affordable games you go to from a professional league. So yeah, I can't wait to take my family to some of these games. So
yeah, and especially with the other product, might not be so good with concessions. Yeah, I mean, by the time you go, you and the girl or whatever for our fans.
I watch my man Ace Bailey there wearing a Raptors jersey. I might have to slip in there to the back door and watch a couple of those games. So hold on there, Kenyon.
True. Wait, is Ace Bailey wearing a Raptors jersey?
I'm talking about by the time this team gets on the floor, that man might be a Raptor, is what I'm saying, or wherever you want. Cooper Flag or Dylan Harper. So we ain't giving up on that side of the aisle right now. But let's stick.
I see. So yeah, we might not be bad for that long. Fair enough. Okay, true.
Let's stay on this side for the moment. I'll jump in and just say, listen, man.
I'm in the volcano, not even the hot tub.
I'll say this. I am very happy. I mean, first thing, props to Larry Tannenbaum, man. I love how he's moving, man. Like, you know what?
Huge win.
He is like he's a man of no nonsense. And all I said to me, as I said before, I pretty much my theory is that listen, he had a wink deal already with the commissioner. He knew what knucklehead he was dealing with, and he just had to go and extract himself from the knucklehead. Okay, I ain't gonna name who the knucklehead is. I think you all know in this case, if you follow me a little bit, know who the knucklehead is. Once he got rid of this case, he loosened up knucklehead off his back. He pretty much went to the NBA and WNBA and say, "Okay, I'm good now. I got my money and my stuff ready to go. I did myself with the research and know which coliseum. All that was done. Said, yo, let's get it done. That's the way it was. It's nothing else. Because I have no doubt in my mind that if everything went the way it was supposed to go, that when the Bay Area got theirs done, a few weeks later, we'd be in Toronto doing the same type of presentation a year ago. And I think, and it cost us a year perhaps, which may not necessarily be a bad thing if you know who's coming out with that draft. That may not be a bad thing. So it might have worked out in a strange way. Well, as far as the landscape of Toronto, I think it's going to be fascinating to see how I think this team's going to get received very well. I think, Coach, when we did space about yesterday, I think you hit it bang on. Toronto's going to be a big-time player in the – oh, my God. Sorry. Oh, my God. Sorry. I just saw something. I saw something my eyes had never seen before. Okay?
Was it Ant?
The man went from the 3-point line 35 feet across or blew past a man, double clutch, and did 2 hands over in traffic.
Is it and?
Yes, who you expect?
Hey, you never know. Jokic might get up once in a while.
My goodness, man.
Hasn't yet.
It is ridiculous, this dude, man.
Well, I'll just say that team isn't ready to give up. We will obviously also have more playoff news as we go along. And by the way, I know we're not there yet, but at some point we do need to ask Trey when he's here about Charlotte because that is his mistress team. They did get a W. But sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, but with the W, I mean, just the fact that the team itself, I think, is going to get received so well. I think we've been mining this area for a long time when it comes to women's basketball. Our friend Nelly in this case here is talking about all the infrastructure is kind of built for this moment. I think it's like Queens Hoops, if I'm correct in this case here, or Hoop Queens. My apologies.
I think it's Hoop Queens, but I'll double check on that.
I've heard it before because I know a friend of mine was into it from the early stages.
Yeah, so Hoop Queens.
Queens, yeah. So there's a lot of things going on, especially even in the college perspective or university perspective, and maybe Coach will speak on that. I think it's just really exciting time for hoops fans in the city. I think it's gonna be, and it helps, of course, the national team. So I am looking forward to what this team does. And I think in a sneaky way, it puts pressure a little bit on the team that's on the other side of the aisle in this case here, because now they got someone to kind of, there's another basketball operation now, and if they start running their stuff,
right? If one operation's doing well, you can't say, well, it's MLSC, and it ain't MLSC no more.
Right, exactly. So, Coach, to you, man, what's your thoughts, man? You coach women's basketball. I'd love to hear your perspective.
I was so ecstatic when I heard the news, and a big shout out to Larry T. I kind of was hoping they'd send him to the draft lottery today, maybe give him a little bit more luck. But anyway, maybe it's the right move. He didn't get it. But point is, no, this is phenomenal for women's basketball and for basketball fans and players across this country. The growth of basketball from the iteration to the team 30 years ago to Vince Carter to the championship and right up until now, it's just been phenomenal to see. I had a couple of messages from some of the women that I was help coaching like 10 years ago, and they're excited. Some of them said, we're coming to Toronto, we're going to be watching games. Like, we never thought maybe this soon to the future that we'd be able to do that. And this is just going to be great for, like you guys had said it right off the jump. Imagine, like, you'll be able to go to a few games actually and be able to take your families or be able to afford it, hopefully. So I hope they'll make it affordable for people to go. And if they do, the support from across the country that this Toronto team is going to have, it's going to be phenomenal. We're going to be one of the top 2-3 sellout market, I would say, in the WNBA. And I'm glad Larry T, just as Beyond said, just stayed away from the knuckleheads that were kind of stopping this, because you have to strike while the iron's hot. And with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers, there's a ton of talent. There always has been, but it's just, I don't know, it's better marketed today, maybe a bit more. And
I think, I think also too, the social media aspect has helped a lot because how to market themselves. So I think that's a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, and it's just going to be so exciting to go in a couple of years to watch some games. I certainly plan on doing so. I get to see the Canadian women's national team in Edmonton 5 years ago. Showed it to my friend Steve, who's with the national team now. But, it was great to see Kia Nurse and just some of the talent that comes across the country, mainly here in Ontario, because Ontario, always say, is a gold mine for recruiting because there's a lot of people in Ontario. So we certainly have the people, the infrastructure, and then you got the money. Larry T, he's got the connections, like you said. There's no reason why we can't have the team here. And the cost is only going to go up. So strike now while the iron's hot. You get a team in here. It's just going to be great for basketball across the country. Male, female, doesn't matter.
I mean, I'm looking right now, like 3 months ago, and obviously it's the Warriors game, but so, okay, fine. That's a more expensive game because, people want to see Steph Curry. But you're talking about $220 for nosebleed seats. Okay? And that's before you get into, you have a beer or a non-adult
For one
beverage if you
just for
want.
one ticket.
Yeah, for one ticket. Right? Maybe you get, like if you're on a date and then all of a sudden it's like, well, oh, I like the jersey. You're like, oh man, like
First thing, man,
I
who's
might
the
have to
player?
work again, right? Like for
Tickets
2 days for
now.
some
They have
people.
2 tickets for $400 plus. Like, I mean, yo, you
Yeah,
know,
it's like, listen, I bought the tickets, right? Like, I bought the tickets, right? Like, what do you think this is? Okay, so all I'm saying is being able to go to a game for much cheaper is a blessing, right? And this team in the future. I mean, obviously, it's 2026. You never know that with inflation, it might be 225 before you get to the $50 hot dog and thing, right? And you're still hungry after. But we hope the world isn't quite in that place between now and then. So I think it's great. I think it's great for basketball. I think it puts a great spotlight on the city. Um, there's nothing bad about this, and it's also great because if you have family members, I have a niece that's coming up into the age where she's starting to get into sports and different sports. I'd love to take her to a game. Like that's the type of thing that you look forward to. So yeah.
I
Um,
guess
mhm.
just a quick little thing of they're going to play on the Coca-Cola Center on exhibition grounds. Larry T has already said that he's looking to build a practice facility that would be open for this team as well as for the national teams, men and women. And I think the other thing I just want to mention, May 23rd, there looks like there might be an official announcement with likely with the WNBA themselves, kind of what they did with the Bay Area team. So look out for that in about a week's time. And I think I just want to get all the little things there. So keep looking at WNBA or WNBA.com for other stuff. But yeah, exciting times, man. Anybody got
She
anything?
the North.
She the North, no
She the
doubt.
North. With that being said, and we will have Nelly on this pod, not just for WNBA, just in general, because she's a great guest and a great host of Raptor Spaces at times. Shout out to anyone really who runs Raptor Spaces. Sometimes even the ones that I've seen where I'm not a part of it, but I've seen like 8 to 12 hour spaces. If you are that dedicated, good for you. It might be time to kind of take a step back for a second and enjoy the sunlight, but yeah. But in general, shout out to all those who run spaces. I think it's important, to kind of keep the community engaged. I can't think of anything else that I really want to talk about. I don't know about you guys. I know we will probably talk about draft picks, but we'll do that on the next episode of Basketball Rewind. So, is there anything else that you guys want to talk? Otherwise, we're gonna get out of here so I can say peace. All right, then peace.
Nothing.
Like, comment, and subscribe. So yeah, take care, everyone, and yeah, and also, you know, people, it'll be okay.